High above the Peruvian Amazon, an elite police squad braces for battle. They are on a mission to stop the invasion of a ruthless enemy. Drug cartels hell-bent on taking over this lawless jungle. All around us, vast fields of illicit coca, the raw ingredient for cocaine. A sign that the bad guys are close. On the ground, police fight the enemy with fire, destroying their hideouts and the labs where they manufacture drugs. It's just one battle in a raging drug war that could be spinning out of control. Peru now produces more cocaine than any other country in the world. In part because cartels have found cover in this remote territory that borders Brazil and Colombia.
It's very far away, but it impacts us.
Lizette Irizarry is the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency's regional director in South America.
There is a possibility that cocaine from the tri-border area is coming to the United States. It's not significant amounts just yet, but it is being diversified.
And she believes the very same cartels that have been a menace to the U.S. for decades are now expanding to this part of the Amazon.
And it does fuel their organization and makes it a much larger, maybe a much more dangerous organization because now it has international impact.
But the U.S. still drives demand by consuming more cocaine than any other country. That's why the DEA has joined this fight in the jungle, called Operation Trapezio. Mauro Esposito of the Brazilian Federal Police leads the multinational task force. Why here? Why the Amazon?
Essa é a realidade. Aqui, a ausência do poder público é quase total. Pelas nossas estimativas, ao longo do Rio Javari, existem 10.000 hectares de coca plantada.
E isso é muito?
É muito. É uma quantidade suficiente para fazer 300 toneladas de cocaína.
Coke that Mauro believes is flooding the streets of Brazil, usually in its most destructive form, crack. The stakes are high, so Mauro has partnered with the Peruvian National Police and invited us along for his latest mission. The troops have identified a network of coca fields in an isolated section of jungle. The advance team goes in by boat, and we follow in a seaplane. Our pilot was saying that he always puts his bulletproof vest under his seat because these flyovers can be really dangerous. They know that these guys have guns. This rugged region is a smuggler's paradise.
He can't fly very low because he's afraid that we might be shot at.
We join the 2-mile hike deep into narco territory.
You have to watch out where you step because there are scorpions, poisonous snakes, spiders.
We're also on the lookout for armed guards and booby traps.
We walked about 45 minutes to an hour to get here in thick jungle. And suddenly it's just this clearing, and all this that you see here is all coca.
Randalzinho do meu coração.
There are no signs of traffickers yet, so Mauro commands his team to fan out. Meanwhile, a Brazilian forensics expert starts analyzing the coca. How do you track where the drugs are coming from?
We take samples of the drug being produced here, and then we compare with samples seized in big cities like Rio, São Paulo, Brasilia.
His goal? To map the traffickers' expanding drug supply routes. They don't find any narcos or coke labs, a major blow to the operation. But they do encounter a local grower still tending his field.
Aqui mais.
So he used to plant corn here, but he says that coca is much easier to plant. The police say they won't arrest this man because they're in search of bigger fish. Out of leads, Mauro and his team return to base and begin the long task of analyzing evidence. Meanwhile, we go out in search of our own answers and follow a tip that leads us across enemy lines.
We found someone who around here they call a chemist, someone who works at the cocaine labs, has agreed to speak to us. He doesn't want to be identified because they adhere to two very simple rules in the drug business. You don't steal from someone's load and you don't rat. Either of those can get you killed.
The chemist, whose face is partially concealed at his request, explains that he's in business with Colombian traffickers.
Y crecen toda esta tierra.
How much do you think is leaving here? Muchos kilos?
Toneladas.
toneladas.
The chemist says that his labs have been targeted in police operations, but it does little to slow down his production.
Regresa, bueno, no interesa, haces otra.
You just build another one, he says. 2 days later, we're back at police headquarters. Mauro is promising new intelligence.
They flew over this area right on the border with Brazil here yesterday, and they saw 2 active labs.
Within hours, we are back in the air, racing to the target area. Police scour the area on their hunt for the enemy. And that's when they make a critical discovery, lab after lab. Many more than they expected. They torch them all.
You're saying that in less than 2 square miles that they found 6 labs like this one. And you see that the lab is set more into the jungle, so it can be hidden from whoever is flying above.
But they don't find any people. The narcos have already fled. Even without an arrest, police consider the operation a success.
Just from this cocaine lab, they can process up to 35 kilos of cocaine on a weekly basis.
They estimate that in this raid alone, they've taken nearly $1 million of drugs off of the market. But it's only a small victory in a much larger war. Mauro and the troops on the ground still face an uphill battle with global consequences. For Nightline, I'm Mariana Vanzel.